Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? Are you over being so fatigued that you don't have energy for your kids, for your partner, for yourself, for your friends? Are you overwhelmed with everyday life and not sure why? Do you feel like that everybody else seems to be able to cope and handle, but for some reason you can't? Well, to cover these mystery complex cases, I've brought together some of the most brilliant minds in the alternative health space. We'll be talking everything from psychedelics to mental health, mindfulness, spiritual health, physical health. If it has to do with living your best life, I'm going to have a guest on covering that topic. Hey there, I'm Heather Gray, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner, and I am the Renegade Health Boss. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you will enjoy this show. Yay! Welcome, Dr. Drobot, to the show. So excited to have you here. I absolutely just fell in love with you when I saw you on. It was a weird. I don't know how I got hooked up with Gabe, but then I got hooked up with Gabe and watched his documentary, Lighting the Path movie. And then there you were all over it. And there was just something about you and your clinic. And I was just like, Gabe, you have to introduce me. And from there, as they say, you're doing remarkable things for the really complicated type of folks out there, and then also taking not so complicated folks and bringing them to a whole nother level. So I absolutely love the work that you're doing in this world. And yeah, would would love to learn a little bit more about you, how you got started, all that fun stuff.
Sure. Ask away.
So
Or
where are
was
you
that
from?
that was the
Yeah.
question, right?
That was
How'd I
that was
get
the
started?
intro. Yeah. How did you get started? What made you want to be a doctor? All that, the origin story of Dr. Drobot.
Right. Decades ago, many moons ago, I was really into athletics, growing up and transitioned into exercise, a science degree in exercise physiology. That was my bachelor of science degree. And then you kind of realize like there's can't do much with that at that time. And so wanted to go into performance, whatever that meant, and wanted to go into medical performance. And that was in Canada. And you ran into like socialized medicine. So you like didn't really have an avenue to use that human performance piece in medicine. They're very different, right? Medicine was built on diseases and human performance is not based on diseases. So there are two different spectrums. And then went to a naturopathic college down in Portland, did my 4 years there, and then got into like a lot of European modalities and lots of like tech. And I always say this, like I'm not a computer person. I'm certainly not a technician of any kind. I like barely can fix anything. Couldn't set my podcast stuff up here. I have staff, but I saw that if you were looking at like elevating human performance, it couldn't just be done with pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals or diet. From the people that I see, right? It takes another level of treatment options. And that just kind of led me to go back up to Canada, bring a whole bunch of techniques and tech from the world back up into my clinics, and then got tired of the snow, moved down to Arizona, opened up a big thing in Scottsdale. And after 20 some years, I'm still doing it and innovating. And, people travel globally here because we have like so many different layers of tools. And personally, people are like, well, I get into that. Like, I have no great health story. I didn't have Crohn's disease. My mom wasn't killed with conventional like I've got nothing there. It's all inspirational in the sense that it was a hobby. I exploited the hobby to be in most self-interest, and I applied it to like everybody because you saw that the stuff eventually that you use for human performance and athletes, you could use for chronic disease and make them normal. And then once somebody got normal, like they wanted to get well. So none of the stuff, in North America, we always like want to have a specialty like Lyme disease or a specialty like athletics. But you'll find like in other places of the world, their expertise was just physiology, right? Like we just want to make somebody better. And so when somebody's better, you have to include all of those organ systems in there. So you didn't have a disease. So that's probably how we ended up like being on documentaries and getting results because I never like was like fulfilled with just focusing on one disease. It's boring, right? Like I like to see people get better and then like get great. And so some of my people started with a chronic disease and now they want to go run triathlons and I'm like with them all the way. And so I think it's physiology and biology and you maximize that person's ability to maximize their own biology.
So I have over 100 episodes out, and then I've recorded another 40 with another company. So close to 200 episodes. I think you're the first person that's kind of in this line of work without like the pain to purpose story, which it cracks my shit up because your passion and your heart is no less than those that do have that right pain to purpose story. And
Right.
I love the fact that you're like, nah, I just want to see people get better.
I mean, it's a strange because they want that, right? And they also want me to fight with conventional med. Like I'm in this battle, like we're all in this battle together, and they wronged me, so I'm going to prove them wrong. And it's like, I work with pro athletic teams, like we see surgeons, and they're. I think when you just come out of that again hobby and just out of self interest and just the ability to say the story was I was interested in it, right? Like I didn't have to get motivated to do it, and I'm not working from behind. Like I'm like the old hair club for men. Like I'm a client, like as well as an owner. Like I'm interested in, which helps you not specialize, right? Because oftentimes, and there's people with great stories, and something happened, and so they want to like they go into that field because, of course, that was a field they were affected by.
Right.
And I think that's also a wonderful thing because you're trying to help the people that you were sitting in chat groups with and having those conversations. And like I didn't never sit in a chat group. So like I was doing it just with ears open, just listening to a bunch of different things. Now, that also leads you down crazy paths because you have no focus. Right?
Yeah,
Like this,
absolutely.
you're just yeah, you're just I don't think anybody else is crazy enough to want to learn all this stuff. Like people say, well, why isn't everybody doing this? And I'm like, because they're not stupid. Nobody is like going to go and invest all this money and time without a purpose. And my purpose just was like, I thought that was interesting. So then it leads you to keep doing non-specific stuff. And you just end up treating like my day is so varied in the fact that you'll get some people with chronic disease and then some pro athletes and then some people that want to get pregnant. So, and they all use the tech, right? So everybody's like, the goal is to get as good as you can. And regardless of what your condition is, if you got the most tools, then your chances of getting that result, if you know how to use them, are just exponentially better.
110%. I love the toys. I always have. I've always been huge into tech. Not like a tech
Mm-hmm.
person, but I've always, had some sort of bioenergetic machine, always had some sort of this. If I had the money, I would have, something like your place set up. So
Right.
I'm jealous, but I think that it's awesome that you have
You
that
can
you
come and use it anytime,
I
right? It's
know,
like
right?
if you want to buy a spaceship, like you got to be in the space program, and like physicians don't want that. General public, like again, people that are interested see the value and the coolness. And then in Europe, like the thing is, it wasn't designed out of being cool. It was designed out of getting a result. So then like it's just it's a great thing to come in and you have all these toys, I guess is the way that we'll say it.
I love my toys. It was shocking. It was shocking to a person who's done all the stuff that you talked about in the beginning, the diet, the lifestyle, the this and the that. And even I was still having a hard time moving the needle. And then when I get there and get into your testing and you're like, you have got so much static in your lines, right? That my nervous system was still really out of whack. And I kind of got bummed at first because I do all this.
Yeah, you get depressed.
but then you're like, no, that's what I'm here for with these tools, is because it really shifts things in a way that it's really hard to do sometimes on yourself, especially if you've been sick for a really long time.
If you're like practicing medicine is hard enough, like on the general public, just practicing on the general public, like trying something and seeing what happens. Practicing on yourself is really hard because there's like just a million different things you're going to do to yourself, and you're not going to wait for the response. Like like again, when you used to see physicians and they would sit down and talk to you, right? They would say, try this for a month and come back and tell me if it got better. And we still do this in fitness, right? Fitness is like, go and step on the scale and go do this for a month. And then you wouldn't step on, they try to get you not to step on the scale 5 times a day because they know that's counterproductive, right? Because you're just stressed and you're all over the place. It's like investing in stocks. Like you don't move money around 5 times a day. But when you have a condition and you practice on yourself, you know that you just go down 5 rabbit holes like a day. And so it's easy when you come and instead of just you doing it emotionally and with, a tremendous amount of information, computers don't care, right? Like tech doesn't really care. They're just going to tell you where you're at. And then we have a non-emotional, like an inspirational meeting. And I'm like, who's to know if you weren't like it would be a lot worse if you didn't do all that stuff. But it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? It can't be too hot, can't be too cold, just has to be just right. And physiology doesn't like to be poked all the time. So like the bases that you guys come with in the suitcases of supplements, like I'm with you, right? I'm laughing all the time and then there's always this like how like oh my goodness and I'm like no you didn't do anything wrong and that's not wasted money and time. Like you learn discipline. It just takes a little bit of time or something to put you over the top so some of that stuff starts working. Or you just learn what not to do to yourself. And again, it's just like it's an art. The more information you have, the better you know how to paint the picture. And if you have the ability, and 20 years ago when I started medicine, you didn't have the ability to buy all this stuff and take 5,000 supplements and like do all these different dietary programs. So I still I'd take today over then because you guys are so educated.
Mm.
Like you learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. 110%. Would you consider yourself a biohacker? Like, do you see yourself with that term?
The weird thing is that term, like 20 years ago, that biohacker, like they just turned me crazy. Right. Because again, like the biohacking is as far as like, and I'm with it. I think like if people knew what biological medicine was, as far as European biological medicine, that would have been called biohacking before it was called biohacking. Like they used lights. Like I built a light device like 18, 19 years ago with PMF. And that was just like, I built it in Europe. And that was just called bioenergetics. Like it wasn't biohacking. Like they were doing cryo and red light and green light and like frequencies. And then it comes to North America. And I think that's a North American term that
Mm.
we just kind of took and we said, if you do anything with tech and it has something to do with medicine and it affects your physiology, then that's biohacking. I guess by definition, I fall into that, which is not a derogatory term. But in Europe, like, I think they'd slap you, like, for like the real, because they'd be like, this is not on the playground. Like, this is in the clinic. And you're like, calm down, right? This is just applying. Because in those areas, they get so disenchanted why medicine doesn't adopt it. And I'm
Mm,
like, well, like, why would you want to deal with medicine when you can just go straight to the public, right? Because the
right.
public are your fans. Medicine's always going to prevent things from competing with pharmaceuticals. So I guess like biological medicine and bio, like whatever bio comes before whatever term you want to put after it. Yeah. Like we're all trying to advance physiology and biology. If you want to hack it, like I always just said, like, how are you hacking? Like that's like you can hack your bicep. It's like, no, you can't. You got to do work and your bicep's going to respond. Like it's either going to respond or not. And that's the like the European, like the I'm going to say the everywhere else besides North America, that's their complaint is that you're making this sound like you can make this easier. And it's like, no, that's not what they're saying. They're just saying you can make it more efficient. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're,
absolutely.
we're all just yeah, we're trying to
Abs-
cheat death. Right at the end of it, I guess.
I mean, 2 days at your clinic, it's probably the equivalent of, how many weeks, months, or whatever, what I accomplished in the 2 days, right? So again, that more efficient, um, when it
Yeah.
comes to shifting my
Sometimes it
nervous
just
system.
ties you. Yeah, sometimes it ties things together for you too.
Yeah.
Like you did, like I remember your text where it was like, we were on suicide watch for a second where you're like, what did I do in all this time? And I'm like,
Ah,
you learned, like, you did a lot of great things. And now you're like, you get to sit back and say, man, I really did some things, right? That's how it ends up being.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, we're gonna take a quick pause. When we come back, I want to dive deeper into some of the tools that you use. What's the science behind them? Why have you chose to put them together in the way that you have in your clinic? And hopefully maybe hear some testimonials and some success stories that you have. So
All day.
don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When you're facing painful symptoms, a diagnosis of chronic Lyme, or an autoimmune disease, it can be overwhelming to navigate. You already know mainstream medicine doesn't have the tools to support you, and often even alternative medicine can become a maze of options without sustained results. Modern living puts significant stress on our systems. To counter this, we need a holistic approach, utilizing the latest technology and guided by physicians with decades of clinical experience. This is biological medicine. The Biomed Center in Scottsdale, Arizona is one of the most comprehensive clinics in the world, incorporating the latest diagnostics available, such as full-body MRIs, computer regulation thermography, heart rate variability, toxin screenings, and along with hormone and gut testing, they achieve the broadest look at all systems of the body. Customized protocols are developed by physicians who have treated thousands of patients in chronic disease by optimizing their biological performance. Save yourself years of suffering and searching with a visit to the Biomed Center, Scottsdale. The future of medicine is here.
I used to be constipated. I used to have massive issues with my liver, with weight, with sleep. Not anymore, not since I started using Queen of the Throne's castor oil packs. The Latin name for the castor oil plant literally translates to hand of God. This plant, this amazing product can be used to help with thyroid issues. They've got a thyroid pack. You can wear it on your abdomen if you've got hormonal, that time of the month cramps issues. I usually just wear mine overnight on my liver to help with detox, help with getting regular bowel movements, and to help get a deeper night's sleep. I love my castor oil pack, and I have been using it for years. Make sure to go to thelymeboss.com, go to the resource section, and check out one for yourself. Stay tuned. Awesome. Welcome back. So I would love to learn a little bit more about some of the tools that you have in your office and kind of why you picked them and some of the different modalities that you use.
So we usually break them down into the assessment part of it. We'll say the detoxification part of it, and then the regenerative part of it, right? Most clinics have one of these. So when the people come in, like there was to look at nervous systems, to look at lymphatic systems, like the standard tests and the stool, urine tests, like I use them. I guess that's the functional medicine way to do it. But the nervous system, like it was a big thing to look at. So I always was into like lots of central nervous system testing, like with heart rate variability and real-time EEGs, and to just see where that nervous system was. And once we get that and we figure out which systems are having a hard time, it's not like Lyme disease is typically treated like with the immune system. So people bomb on it with antibiotics, whatever they're going to do, but they don't build the rest of these systems up. So I kind of like had that interest to see when people were coming in, because they were coming in with like all kinds of stuff. We did that unique in-house assessment. They brought their blood work and all that stuff. And then really the treatment stuff. So like I said, we removal in addition, right? The detox is a removal. So we'd use full body lymphatic compression units with microcurrent. And then we use pocket saunas for carbonic acid and ozone saunas. Then we use closed system colonics. So that's a little detox suite. And then once we get the lymphatics moving, we add visceral manipulation to that and full red light beds to that. And then you saw, of course, we have hard chamber hyperbaric. So a lot of it ended up being we remove or we make the ability to add things, because a lot of times like the patient's so full or the lymphatics are so full, or like you said, your nervous system is so static, like it just can't respond to a therapy. The therapy was great, but you can't respond to that. And then at the same time, like we're adding electrons with PMF. I'm adding oxygen with hyperbaric or EWAT treatments. We're adding like doing intermittent hypoxic training to move out old mitochondria. And then the real stuff ends up being the 10-pass ozone, the blood filtering with EbO2, and then adding exosomes or adding umbilical cells or adding V cells. So it really ends up being, do the assessment. You've got to go ahead and change the oil in the car fast, right? And do it in an innovative way that the person isn't going to have this big Herx reaction. If you're doing two things and you're adding like electrons, oxygen, and photons to the person while they're doing the detox, they don't have like all the problems they have if you're not supporting it, right? It's like if you go to the gym and you have a spotter, it's a lot easier than if you don't. And then usually people come here for weeks, so or a week and then they go away and then we do it virtually. But I really like now a lot of the blood filtering stuff. Like just from since the COVID era, right? And people just having a lot of systemic inflammation and irritation, and immune system's just getting pissed, right? The lymphatics look so much worse than they used to. Central nervous systems are so much more irritated, again, with digitalization. So any chance we can to unload a system, either with blood filtering, like I like things coming out and then adding young things going back in. That's what I like.
What are some of the benefits of the 10 pass, the ozone? What does that all do?
Well, it has a sanitation, like it has still an antimicrobial effect, and it's non-specific. So ozone just works on bacterial infections, works on viral infections, work on mycoplasma infections, work on spiral. Like it just is non-descriptive, and you get that initial like sanitation effect with ozone, but more importantly, you oxygenate the tissues and you stimulate antioxidant enzymes on the back end. So like ozone is my personal favorite for me, right? My personal favorite thing to do to myself. Either it's 1 pass or 10 pass. But I really like it because I have a little like past history, a past dance affair with mono when I was like young playing hockey. And so like I run this machine hard. And so once in a while, like I'll go ahead and just make sure I level the playing field. And like I like having my tissues oxygenated, like it makes me feel good. So a lot of those treatments that take some expertise, say take some equipment, like those are ones that really do a great job. Of course, EbO2 with blood filtering, which is a catheter in each arm, where you're doing ozonation, oxygenation, and UV
Like,
photobiomodulation. That's another one of my favorites now, just because people like it gets people better fast because you're essentially like filtering out stuff and reoxygenating systems. I could argue if you did nothing, if you just took a bunch of slabs of humans and you just put electrons in them, photons in them, and oxygen in them, like mitochondria respond real well to that. And that's essentially what we started doing with athletes. We just add electrons, photons, and oxygen. And like physiology just loves that. So, so many different treatments, but the ones that are the most effective are, usually the ones that are a little bit more invasive.
gotcha. Yeah, I absolutely fell in love with, although the one that's not evasive, I fell in love with the breath one, where I teach a lot of breath work to people, but it's just this kind of standard breath, and here you hook me up to an EKG and it tells you what kind of breath rate my body wants and enjoys, and it resets. And then you give a little app, to go home, and I have this breathing tool now that I use, and oh my gosh, I even looked at her, I'm like, this is kind of fast, isn't it? She goes, yeah, this is probably one of the faster ones I've seen. So anytime someone tells me to slow down too much, it kind of pisses me off more, because that's not how I'm built, right? To where I love that this one, it gives me what my body wants. So I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because you can take anything and you can dial it into what that person needs, like breathing, like to find your resonant breath rate, which again is where like you were born with a resonant breath rate. And when you practice that, like your whole parasympathetic nervous system reacts to that. We all have a little bit of a different one. Now, to get that, you need $10,000 worth of equipment. But once you have it, it's not changing for the rest of your life. And so that, if you're gonna, like I always said, if I'm gonna practice something, I just want to do it right. Right. Because a lot of times people are like, this is a life practice. And I'm like, I don't have a lifetime to try to figure this out. So I'm going to spend an hour. And like, there's geniuses that have figured this stuff out. And all you got to go is you get hooked up, and then you figure out pacing. And it just makes things simple. To me, like you would say that is the most powerful one. And if you did nothing but that again on 100 people, you do good with 100 people. For me, I'm like, oh, that's kind of boring. But when you think about it the way you just said it, I'm like, yeah, that is really something. So there's like, you forget about all the little things, but that's all nervous system training, right? To me, like it was really hard. Like people say, what's the most innovative thing you do in your practice? Because they're not sure what to call it. They're not sure what is this place?
What
Like, I'm not
box
sure.
do
Is
you
this,
fit into, Dr. Drobot?
yeah, they want to say, are you alternative? Like,
Are
because
you a
you seem to have
biohacker?
like, yeah, like, are you a biohacker? But you prescribe hormones and like, what are you? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter what you are. But doing that nervous system stuff with those
I felt like
computers,
you gave me like the keys to the kingdom with that one stupid app. Like you could ask your staff. Like I was flipping out. I'm like, wait, what? This is me? This is
yeah.
how I'm supposed to be breathing? Like, dude, seriously, it was very moving. I was super excited and still do.
And there's a whole bunch of like academic nerds that that's all they do their entire life is they're so dedicated to that discipline of finding your resonant breath rate. And I'm like, so know that you are that. A lot of people died looking for that answer, and you got it. And then you just have to
Woohoo!
practice it. And once you practice it, like it's pretty amazing what happens when you just get your nervous system in the position that you want it to,
I
because you're
listen to it in
strengthening.
the car and I do it because I have a wicked reactivity and road rage, and it is literally saving people's lives because I'm not
Yeah.
to kill them with my
Like
car.
when like when that's the frequency, or when that's like when you have that, and they're like, oh, you could go up in the Himalaya and the monks and they practice this forever. And again, I'm just like, oh man, like we got to find a faster way to do this. But you have to admit it's still a practice, right? People
Absolutely.
are like, so you give this to me, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't give that to you. You do it.
Yep.
And so part of our like the reason our patients have such good responses is because once they like get that information, you're not losing that information, right? And it empowers the patient. You're attacking nervous systems and lymphatic, you're attacking all these systems at one time, and they're all getting stronger, right? It's like doing full body workouts. Like in the end, everything benefits because you're like doing a little bit of everything instead of just banging on one thing. And in the end, the result is like the whole system is stronger and more adapted than what it was before. And then people do really, really well.
It also helps your staff is absolutely incredible. Like I can't get over how competent, empathetic, just compassionate, like all the words, you really feel taken care of, because a person with a chronic illness, for the longest time, nobody listens to them, right? They've been told they were crazy, that it's all in their head, to be able to come to a place like yours, get validated, get believed, and be treated with such respect and honored, like you did. I'm just beside myself. Just what an amazing staff, what an incredible experience it was.
Well, I never want to come to work at a sick center. Right. I think that's again some of the like I have to come here every day. Right. So and you know me, I don't like to be stuck in this office. So I need to be roaming, like it's a big area. So I need to be roaming, like I'm doing treatments, but the energy has to be that like we don't want to be in a sick center, right? People don't want to come there. Like I don't want to go to a hospital like and be sick like with a bunch of other people that are sick. Like we're supposed to have places that like you come there and half of it is you want to get better. If you go to a gym and everybody's complaining about working out, like you can't get started. So I think we built and the people are great and they're into it. And again, it's like everybody's here for the same purpose, right? We're just trying to have great days, right? And so the staff's trying to have a great day, the patient's trying to have a better day, And by the end of it, it ends up being infectious because we don't just focus on like one thing. So again, everybody's energy is coming together, and you need it to be fun, right? Life is like when you're sick, it's not a lot of fun. So like there's no sense in going to a sick center. Misery does not love company, right? Misery loves change. Change needs to be like that around you that just at least enables you to like put a smile on your face. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. Get a mic drop. I would love to hear about some of your favorite stories that, that you've gathered over the years.
I mean, so personally, my favorite ones are like cognitive problems, because I think cognitive problems, probably like moms with cognitive problems, are some of my favorites, because man, that is the cog of the family that goes down. And in medicine, like that's probably where we fail the most, in that
Amen.
is in that neurological component, because especially with females, we just tend to prescribe antidepressants. Like it's a real interesting problem. Because guys are too stupid to say that they're injured, and like females are just, they've got to run stuff. So you get to see post concussion, post Lyme, post like pregnancy, post anything. Like we just basically said postpartum depression is a problem like not too long ago. So we get to see like those are some of my favorite, to see people doing neurological treatments and like their life is back on. And autoimmune diseases, Lyme disease and chronic infections, again, just because they're systemically debilitating, I think those are also, and you just get spoiled because after you see like a bunch of things getting better, like I look at those as injuries, right? Like those, the central nervous system stuff and the chronic infections and the full body like kind of shutdown, I look at that as an injury, a full body injury, which means that it can be recovered and repaired. And when they get back to normal, and then they never stop at that, they always like, they continue something because it wasn't hard and it benefited. It's like your breathing thing, like it wasn't hard, or it doesn't cost you a lot of time or money, and you get to see like there's some amazing results that you still have with biology and physiology. So people are like, what's your best story about athletes? And I'm like, man, athletes are so boring, right? Like you just do not like, maybe you think it's inspirational, but definitely cognitive decline, autoimmune conditions, and chronic infections, like the things that are full body injuries, to get those back. I mean, it's priceless for those people. And what's even more important is that they stay like that. Like I don't like exacerbations. I don't like relapses, right? I don't see like if you build something back stronger. Now, everybody can have something acute that happens and there's stress that comes up in life, and you can take a little dive, but like you're trying to build physiology back where it's stronger than it was before when it broke.
That's absolutely incredible. What is one little piece of nugget that you kind of want to leave people with? And, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more how to work with you?
They can go to the biomedcenter.com. The clinic I'm at most is in Scottsdale, so 480-614-5820, or they can go to Instagram, which I do look at from time to time. And the nugget that I'd have is get assessments done. Don't like, it's like I doing this. I mean, I don't know how many tens of thousands of patients I've seen, right, by now, but I do know this. If you have a car and you like decide you're not going to do anything to it for 10 years, your expectation should be that something is going to be wrong with that. Now, if you take it to the mechanic once a year, because oftentimes we got used to medicine being no news is good news, right? No news is good news. So like, and nobody likes to go to standard conventional therapy because they don't value it, right? Like this guy's going to do a Zoom consult, or this gal's going to like not even touch me, not do a stethoscope. But if you like can just look at even full body thermographies, there's so many, or full body MRIs, like there's so many good things that you can just do once a year and just be in control of your health. I guess that's what I'd say. It's like, be in control of your health. Don't be scared of it. And like, don't irritate it with like doing things consistently doesn't mean you're healthy. Right? Like there's some of my sickest patients are the ones that technically do the most healthy things, right? Where they're taking 5,000 supplements and every day is like, I got to do deep breathing. Then I'm going to do my cold plunge. Then I got to do some meditation. Then I'm going to do my sauna. It's like, we never used to have to do that. But like, check under the hood once a year at least and just see if you're doing something that resonates with like something getting better instead of just doing it. Because I think in North America, again, a lot of us, because nobody's dealing with the medical system anymore, like, you know, that they're not really like the medical system, like Instagram gives more information than the medical system does sometimes now for certain conditions.
Right.
So it's, and podcasting and all this
Right.
stuff, this wasn't around 10 years ago, right? Like it used to be WebMD, and then people were like, I don't get a lot off WebMD. And so I think people have lost, you know, a whole bunch of faith in the medical system. And I hope that I don't think that's good. I don't think that's bad. I think what it has done is a lot of people have become a lot more educated on health in general, right? And hopefully, again, bringing it back, like it's not out of the motivation to get something back or to prove somebody else wrong. It's like, we probably just should have known this stuff like in high school. And then we would have like revered it a little bit more and just paid attention to some of the messaging. So continue to learn. You're all different. If you don't do an assessment, you shouldn't all do the same things, right? Like, figure it out. What's your weakest biological system? If it's a nervous system, treat that. If it's an immune system, treat that. If it's a digestive system, treat that. And then just, if you focus on your weakness, like the rest of it will get strong.
Absolutely. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you and the work that you're doing. There are links in the show notes if you want to know how to get a hold of Dr. Drobot if you're in the Scottsdale area, or if you want to go on a field trip. You know, make sure to, I highly
Lots of people do. Drop on by.
Awesome. Make sure to have a healthy day and stay tuned. Bye. And as always, if you were inspired by anything that you heard on today's show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. That's the only way that we help change people's lives and get this information out into the world so that change can begin one person at a time, the way that it did with me and changed my life so many years ago. Make sure too, right, if you really want to start changing your life, it starts with your diet. It starts with what's on the end of your fork. And if you want to start making changes, go to my website, www.renegadehealthboss, RENEGADE, health, HEALTHBOSS.com, and download your free ebook, your free cooking guide, Real Cooking to Real Life. And in there, you'll also find links to the videos. Don't just learn what to eat, but why, right? Don't just learn how to cook, but the reasonings behind why I use some of the tools that I do, the toxins. You've got to lower your toxic burden, and we can do that in the kitchen and with what you eat. So make sure that you pick up that free resource. It's amazing. And while we're at it, we got to do a little disclaimer. Anything that you hear on this show is for entertainment value only. You cannot hold Heather Gray, the Lyme boss, Discovering Health LLC, or Renegade Health Boss liable for any damages that may have occurred while you have tried something that you've heard on the show. This show also contains affiliate sponsorship and paid advertising, just a heads up. But to also know that no advertising gets on here without my approval first. It's usually products that I have tried and have my stamp of approval on it. So never fear when it comes to that. But yes, cannot hold me liable. Do not. Again, this is for educational purposes only. Please make sure that you talk to your doctor before making any medical changes. And God bless. Stay tuned.